Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Project Grants webinar. I'm Allison Greenwood Bajracharya, Chief Impact and Strategy Officer at the Kauffman Foundation, and we're very grateful for you to join us today. So I will be joined shortly by my colleague, Richard Kim, who's our Senior Director of Entrepreneurship. And our goals for today are to tell you about our project grant opportunity, which is opening next week, and to see if there are questions that are relevant to the grant window or maybe other pathways. Make sure you have what you need before the application opens. So really appreciate you all being here. I'll talk a little bit about our strategic priorities in case you're new to the foundation and our approach to grant making, and then I'm going to hand it over to Richard, who will get more in the details about this round in particular, and then we'll open it up for questions. So if you do have questions along the way, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we have an amazing team who will be working behind the scenes to field those. So with that in mind, as many of you know, starting in 2024, we went through a strategic refresh. Dr. D'Angela Burns-Wallace, our new CEO, had come on, and we were wanting to think about the work differently as we move forward in the next decade. And so in doing so, we started with developing a vision. And our vision for 2035 is to make Kansas City a national model for equitable economic mobility. And we're going to do so by dismantling systemic barriers and setting generations of historically under-resourced communities on the path to prosperity. So there are a couple of words that are bolded here. Economic mobility is really the North Star for the region. And when we say Kansas City, we are thinking about the 6-county region, and we are really focusing on foregrounding impact in Kansas City. So that doesn't mean we will only invest in organizations that are in Kansas City, but we will focus on organizations that are going to drive impact in Kansas City. So either those that are based here or those that are considering expanding because of relevance and for a good reason. So in addition to our vision, when we went through our strategic refresh, we developed 3 priorities. 2 of them are very similar to priority areas we've had for a long-standing time. Historically, Mr. Kauffman always believed in the value of education. It was imperative for him growing up, and it was key to his success. Ultimately, he became an incredibly successful entrepreneur. And so because of that, we've always prioritized education and entrepreneurship. In this refresh, though, we've shifted the focus a little bit. So instead of just saying education squarely, we are now especially focused on college access and completion within the education space. So we recognize that college access, and not just access, but completion and connections to upwardly mobile jobs is key to getting to economic mobility. So that is a very distinct priority area of ours in this new strategic refresh. Additionally, we recognize the importance of high quality training that translates to great jobs. And so workforce and career development is our second priority area. This is a newer priority area for us, something we've made a lot of grants in already this year, and we'll want to continue to advance as we get closer and closer to achieving our very ambitious vision. And then finally, because of Mr. Kauffman's legacy as an entrepreneur and the complexities of being an entrepreneur, we will continue to prioritize entrepreneurship, especially supporting and sustaining business ownership for underrepresented entrepreneurs in particular. Again, all 3 of these will foreground impact in Kansas City. So when we went through our strategic refresh and we developed a new vision and we developed a new priority areas, I came on board, and my role is to create coherence across all of our grant making. So I joined the team almost a year and a half ago. It's been a pretty fantastic year and a half, and I have an amazing team of impact officers I work with. And to meet the community where they are and to think about how do we strive to impact, create hope, stay close to the challenges in play, and really dream big, we developed 4 different grant pathways. Again, the one we're talking about today is a project grant, which is really focused on multiple years of funding to scale or innovate, a program or a systems level approach to change that has a potential for real impact. We have other grant pathways as well. I'm just going to list them here. There's a lot more information on our website. But if you are a research institution or you're interested in rigorous methodologies for researching and helping us solve the challenge of economic mobility, then we encourage you to check out our research grant, which will open again next summer. If you're just looking for short-term support to build out capacity for your organization and you need some one-time funding, then we encourage you to consider our capacity building grant, which actually will close tomorrow. So if that's of interest, go on our website today because that will close tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. And then finally, if you are working as a coalition and really seeking to address systems level change, and thinking about different outcomes to address root problem issues, then you should consider our collective impact grant opportunity, which will open up again next summer. But today we're here to talk about projects. And so with that context in mind, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Richard Kim.
So before we get into the nuts and bolts of project grants, we're going to talk a little bit about what we learned from last time. So we have told many people this, it was a highly competitive process. We got over 250 applications and ended up making 27 awards. When we talk about where these organizations were located, about 2/3 of them were local to the Kansas City area, and about 1/3 were national nonprofits that either had some footprint here or were entering the region. And then when we talk about, we've talked a lot about wanting to be more equitable in grant making. And when you look at the relationship that the awardees had with the foundation, almost half of them had not gotten an award from the foundation in the last 5 years. The other half had been previously funded within the last 5 years. We can move on to talk about kind of the nuts and bolts of how the process is going to work for this round. So, as you mentioned, project grants are really meant to grow an existing project or to test something in the Kansas City region that has shown evidence of effectiveness elsewhere. And for that purpose, we're really looking at kind of funding multi-year initiatives. The floor here is $250,000 annually for dollar amount, and then the term of the grant should be at least 2 years. In the first round of project grants we made last year, the average grantee was had a 3-year grant term and a total award of $1.2 million. That's approximately $400,000 a year. So as we mentioned earlier, if you're interested in applying for the opportunity, it's going to open next Monday, September 15th. The application is going to close November 3rd. There's an important note here. So when we get to the next part, which are key focus areas, areas where we saw opportunities, we're going to talk a little bit about collaboration partnership. If you indicate that you have a collaborator or a partner, we're going to ask that collaborator or partner to submit a kind of confirmation letter of support around that. So for the grant disbursement, it's going to happen in spring, and then the next time that we're going to open this opportunity will be fall of 2026. So as we've now completed about a year of grants making, we saw a few areas of opportunity pop up where we didn't see as many applications come in. And for college access and completion, we really noticed, here it says we will prioritize competitive proposals that implement evidence-based strategies to increase post-secondary credential attainment and facilitate career line transitions. This is really talking about completion. So we saw a lot of activity in the access space. We didn't see as much activity as we would like in the college completion space. So this is not excluding all others, and I'm going to kind of make that clear now for all of these focus areas. We're not going to be excluding people from applying. What we saw here are things that we're going to prioritize if we see them come through. And for college access and completion, those are programs that focus on getting students through college. For entrepreneurship, that is going to be encouraging kind of co-applicants or collaborations to formalize that include financial institutions and entrepreneur support organizations. So we're going to encourage proposals that bring together diverse partners to strengthen the entrepreneurial ecosystem, particularly for underrepresented idea stage or early stage entrepreneurs. This is really hitting at the cold start problem or the cold start area of opportunity for the ecosystem. So we're looking to bring together kind of those, like I said, ESOs and then institutions that can represent capital. And we're looking for them to indicate how strong that partnership is. This is why we're going to be asking for kind of a letter confirming the collaboration or a letter of support if you indicate that you have a partner. And then for workforce and career development, we're encouraging proposals that lead with evidence of employer demand and are rooted in strong industry partnerships with a particular focus on placement, retention, and or advancement of job seekers in their career. This is really to, we noticed an opportunity area where we had a lot of things happening in readiness. This is really focused on getting people into quality jobs. And there are many different ways that you can show that your program is industry demand driven. One of the strongest ways is through industry partnerships. So we saw an opportunity here where we could encourage people who are already running those programs to apply for grants. And now we have some common questions that we are going to tackle.
All right, Richard, thanks for all that great information. This question comes up a lot, and I think it's worth emphasizing, but do I have to be a Kansas City-based organization to apply?
So in short, no. You don't have to be a Kansas City-based organization to apply. And as we pointed out earlier, about 1/3 of the awardees from the last project grants round were not based out of Kansas City, but they made a strong connection to impact in the region, which is what we're really focused on foregrounding.
Great, thank you. Will you consider applications outside of your special areas of interest?
Yes, absolutely. So we encourage anybody that's got a strong program in one of our strategic focus areas of workforce and career development, entrepreneurship, or college access and completion to submit application. Those areas that we pointed out as far as, getting people through college, encouraging collaboration amongst entrepreneur support organizations and financial institutions, and then workforce development programs that have strong ties to employers. Those are things that we're especially interested in and will prioritize, but those are not things that are being done to exclude all others.
Great, thank you. And you mentioned programs, but I know there's an opportunity to apply for systems level
Yes.
initiatives as well. And is a co-applicant or partner required to apply? I know you mentioned that, but do I have to have a partner to apply?
This is another one of those where something that we are encouraging but is not required. Again, we want to see the strongest projects, programs, or to your point, preparing for collective impact or kind of systems level plays. We want to see the strongest applicants come through. So we're not requiring a co-applicant or partner. We just saw this as an area of opportunity to encourage more collaboration in the environment or in the ecosystem.
Right. And I just want to acknowledge that applying with a partnership can be tricky. So we're not trying to encourage people to suddenly develop a new partnership. But if you have a partner you've been working with to address some of the challenges in the ecosystem, whichever priority area you're aligned with, and it's a natural opportunity to build on that, then that's a phenomenal opportunity for you. Okay, tell me about these standard budget categories required on the application. I don't remember seeing them before.
Yep. So this is definitely a change for us. In the past, we kind of just had an open budget template that allowed you to put whatever categories you wanted in. To make this easier on grantees and to make this more consistent, we're rolling out a new budget template that has personnel, contracted services, travel, supplies and materials, subawards, if you have any subawardees, indirect costs, and then we do have an open category for other. You'll be allowed to give detail on each of these categories, but we really, we wanted to make it easier on the grantees as they fill out the budget template to know kind of where things can roll up to.
Great. A couple questions that are coming in, and I just encourage people to continue to put your questions in the chat, and our team is fielding them to me. One, we totally forgot to mention this, but the question is there an LOI this round?
So that is a big change from last time. There is no LOI. Everyone will go straight to an application. We realized in the process that the questions we were asking, even at the LOI phase, we would get through a full application, and so everyone will be filling out an application this time.
Great. What other questions do people have? I imagine there's some people who are wondering, should I apply for capacity or should I apply for project? Just want to reiterate that if you're looking for one-time funding to build a capacity that you can make the case for why now, then capacity grants are a great opportunity. And we've done a few office hours on those, and there's more information online, but that application does close tomorrow. If you're focused on multi-year impact and you're already onto something that you think you could scale, or you're trying to design something and then pilot and scale it, projects are probably more aligned for you. You can build capacity into a project grant given it's multi-year. So if you need to build capacity in year one so that you're designing in year two and scaling in year three, that's totally feasible as well. What is our policy on indirect cost, Richard?
So I think we answered that by giving them the link in the chat. So it's on our website. Our indirect cost policy is on our website. It's a little bit different for like universities versus a regular 501c3.
Great. So make sure you see that link in the chat and we articulate it on the online. Okay, this is another great question. Can an applicant be both an applicant for one and the support letter for another grant?
That's a great question. Um,
I can answer that one if you
yeah,
want.
I think it'd be great. Yeah.
So our general rule of thumb is we want an organization to only be lead on one grant at a time. If you are partnering with another and it's a really smaller partnership, then that would make sense. If you're essentially a partner but really co-leading, then I would figure out which one you're going to prioritize, because we really want to make sure that when we're distributing funds, we're setting you all up for success to really focus on bringing that grant to life with full fidelity. The exception would be if you're a large institution like a university, and you have several divisions that run essentially like their own entities, then you can apply for multiple at a time in that context. Okay, for the project grant related to entrepreneurship, are the 3 bulleted priorities on our website the primary criteria we're using to evaluate the proposals?
So they influence the way that we evaluate the proposals, but we take many different things into consideration. So one is that one of the reasons why this process is so competitive is because of the sheer number of applications that we get. And it's also why we don't tend to give individualized feedback. So the bullets definitely help influence the way that we make decisions. But the applications that we get in and the way that they make an argument around how they fill opportunity areas or gaps in the ecosystem really tell the story of where the portfolio is going to go.
Thanks, Richard. I will also just share, coming out of the last round, which again was highly competitive, we did start with an LOI and then move to an application. This round, we eliminated the LOI because we realized it didn't create a lot more efficiencies for the applicant. We're ultimately interested in really making sure the process feels pretty streamlined for you all. But after that process, we did share some very high level feedback on what made the applications that we advanced stand out from a pool of really strong applications across the board. And so I think being really clear on who you are and your mission, what your track record of success is so far is important. Being very clear on what your implementation will look like, implementation plan, what are some of the milestones, and does that implementation plan reflect the goals you've articulated and your budget? If there's disconnect between those things, that is a flag for us. So we really want to make sure you're thinking through. Of course, nothing is perfect, and we recognize that, and there's risk in what you're doing for sure, and we support that risk taking. But how are you thinking about achieving ambitious goals? How feasible are they? Who's the team that's going to execute, and what's your plan to get there? Again, recognizing nothing's going to be perfect, and this is a huge learning opportunity, and we want to encourage people to try to do new things to get to better outcomes. But it won't always work out that way, but the proposal should reflect that ambition and that clarity. Okay, next question, Richard, for you. When you consider college completion, are you including 2-year, 4-year, and other certificate programs? Actually, do you want me to answer that one?
Sure, yeah. I would say yes, but I think you can give more detail.
Yeah, 2-year and 4-year especially. And I think, 4-year connections between 2-year and 4-year are a gap we've seen in the application pool. And really outcomes focus on 4-year completion that then connect to upwardly modal jobs are especially exciting. But if there's spaces in between where you're innovating and seeing really promising practices, you're welcome to apply. This is a great question. Do you have to be a nonprofit to apply?
It gets a little more complicated, but no, you don't have to be a nonprofit. It's just easiest if you are a nonprofit. You do, however, have to meet certain standards of affecting a charitable class. And that's a lot more detailed answer as to what a charitable class is. We have a little bit of it listed on our website, but that you do have to pass like a charitability test for us to be able to give you a grant.
Yeah, so we are able to make program related investments for project grants especially. And so if you're a financial institution thinking about establishing some sort of fund or something else, you can apply. You would just need to demonstrate the charitable purpose. And if you want a sidebar on that because it can get a little wonky, we're happy to do that too. But 501(c)(3) is absolutely 501(c)(4), 501(c)(6), yes, but just be clear about your charitable purpose. And if you're not a nonprofit, but you have a clear charitable case to be made, please let us know. What is the maximum amount of time for the project grant?
We haven't really given guidelines around maximum amount of time. I would say make sure it's reasonable. Just keep in mind that, as I mentioned earlier, the average grantee from the last round was a 3-year award and at $1.2 million for over the 3 years, about $400,000 a year. Not that that's a strict kind of bottled timeline that you have to adhere to, but keeping that in mind is probably helpful, and knowing that the minimum number of years that we have for project grants is 2.
Great, thank you. Okay, can we speak to non-allowable costs for project grants?
So we don't do capital campaigns, so no capital improvements in the project grants. I'm trying to think of other, Allison, do we have other strict criteria?
Well, there's some guidance in our eligibility quiz that you'll see just around, again, making sure it's a charitable purpose. We can't fund direct religious causes or political causes, and there's some other parameters related to that. But capital campaign is generally the biggest sort of delineation we have. I'm going to ask that Katy Hamilton, our Senior Director of Workforce and Career, join us as well. I think she's hanging out in the background. There she is. She just magically showed up. Hi, Katy.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. We've got a question specifically focused on our workforce and career framing. Can you expand on what you mean by demonstrating regional demand? Are we
Absolutely.
prioritizing specific career pathways?
So while we are not prioritizing specific industries or career pathways, we are looking for um, in-demand occupations within growth sectors. So encouraging applicants to utilize labor market information and to be data informed with the proposals they put forward. The ultimate objective here is, as Richard mentioned, to fill a gap that we saw around job placement, retention, and advancement. And we really hope that those activities and programs lead to real wage gains over time.
Great. Thanks, Katy. You're welcome to hang out with us. We'll give you the really hard questions when they come in. Let's see. So, there's a question about timing. So this window is open through the end of October. We will notify applicants next spring, so likely late April. And then for those who are notified that they are being advanced, dollars will come out the door very quickly after that. So I'd plan for April, May, just to be most prudent. Okay. Are public universities eligible entities to apply?
Yes.
Great.
I don't think it needs a lot more detail. We just a little bit more detail on that. As you mentioned, if you're a really large organization like a public university and another part of the university already holds a grant, that does not mean that you are ineligible. You are still eligible as long as it's not duplicative work across the university.
All right. If you have more questions you'd like to field, we're happy to hang out here for a while. Katy, since we get to have you on, is there anything else you want to share about some of the language that's been articulated related to workforce for career, or in your reflection on the grants you reviewed? Anything that stood out that's worth naming now?
Absolutely, thank you. There's a lot of exciting work happening within the training and preparation space, and that I think is needed within the ecosystem. We're particularly interested, as we said, about the further down the continuum. So really job placement, retention, advancement. I also want to lift up that we say high quality, stable employment. The high quality is, things like predictable scheduling, opportunities to advance, livable wages, safe working conditions. There's lots of different frameworks for quality employment, but that is something we pay attention to. And then for stable employment, we call that out specifically. And it really is, again, if you're working with career seekers and training them, we really want evidence that your training is employer informed and that there is a job opening that they can then move into. Again, we don't want to be overly prescriptive, and this is a narrow interpretation of workforce and career development that will not always be the call out in our grants moving forward, but we're wanting to address a gap, and we see this as a important moment to do that. And the last thing I'll say is that the workforce and career development priority area, perhaps because it's new, perhaps because there's so much wonderful work going on, is very competitive. So we did want to make sure that we're narrowing in this particular round. And I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thanks, Katie. That's great. Richard, one question for you. So in the entrepreneurship section, the prompt speaks to financial institution. So does that speak to a bank or a venture firm, finance arms of other agencies, CDFIs? How do we think about financial institution?
Yeah, so financial institution is broad on purpose. It's someone who can represent a capital investment or loan to a entrepreneur. So that could be a CDFI, it could be a traditional bank, it could be venture. There are many different ways that you can hit this. It could actually be an entrepreneur support organization that has one of those things within them. It's intentionally broad to leave opportunity for collaboration between parties.
Great, thank you. All right, so we have this slide up here that previews our office hours. We've found in our previous grant pathways that just opening up some time for people to bring high-level questions can be really helpful. So you can join us in person at Keystone CoLab on September 22nd or virtually on October 13th. Sign up is available on our website, and I think there's a link in the chat. Those are not intended to be one-on-one sessions, so I want to just reinforce this. Because we are committed to an equitable process and really trying to share this information broadly, we know that we will get a lot of applications. Our intent is to cast a wide net, both to previous grantees who are doing phenomenal work and new prospective grantees. The counter to that is that we're not able to sit down and provide one-on-one guidance. And so we provide these office hours to really address high-level questions that are coming up. So if you have questions that are emerging, please come to office hours or feel free to email us ahead of time. We will do our best to be as responsive as possible to our email at Richard and Katie. I always forget the email address we want to share. Is it granteehelpdesk@kauffman.org?
That sounds right.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to put it in the chat just to make sure somebody's right. But yeah, we're happy to field your high-level questions. If there's any clarity on this context, especially because it is new, we want to be responsive. I think the big headline is like none of this is intended to be restrictive, but knowing how competitive this process is, we also do want to provide some signals of things we're eager to prioritize, but by no means will it be exclusive as long as there's mission alignment, vision alignment, priority alignment, and you're doing exciting work that's going to help us move the needle on economic mobility with impact in Kansas City. We encourage you to consider this opportunity. Richard or Katie, anything else you'd want to add before we sign off? And we can stay on in case people have some questions, but the questions are just trickling in now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time. If you're in the Midwest, you can have some lunch hour back. If you're on the coasts, have a great morning or afternoon. We look forward to being in touch.
Thank you, everyone.